What happened was...
So the FBI is investigating you.
Right.
The state attorney general is investigating you.
Exactly.
For timeshare fraud.
Never took a drink after February 1st.
Gotcha.
And...
I don't put up with bullshit. And if you're a collection company, why call them and first offer rental services?
We're helping people that are susceptible to these fraudsters. And
you go to work at this company and the company it's a scam company.
Yes. There is so much fraud being perpetrated against senior citizens. You have no idea. Right. Do you mind if I take a break and go to the bathroom?
Why 9 bank accounts?
Because they kept shutting our banks down. It's not true. You sound like the government. We were calling people and we would have them put their timeshare up on our website for a fee.
I am wondering why 3 people have already pled guilty out of the 7 that were indicted. You're victimizing senior citizens. It would be wrong to manipulate senior citizens or to use them or to victimize them. Absolutely.
Of course. Didn't you actually commit a crime?
Yeah, I invented cybercrime. I'm gonna have a drink of bourbon to calm down.
Can you let me use the bathroom one more time?
Hi, I'm Brett Johnson, former United States Most Wanted criminal. In today's world, criminals come in all shapes and sizes, but they all have one thing in common. They all have criminal thoughts. On today's episode, we're talking to Bill O'Hanlon. He's a Navy veteran, a businessman, a sober alcoholic, and he's currently running for mayor of Washington Township in Gloucester, New Jersey. And there's a reason that I want to talk to William. William is under a federal indictment, a 13-count federal indictment. 12 of those counts are for wire fraud. What's he being indicted for, you ask? Well, I'll tell you what he's being indicted for. He's being indicted for timeshare fraud, specifically targeting senior citizens, people aged 55 and older. We're going to talk to William about that because he claims that he's being targeted by the FBI, that they've fabricated the entire case against him. He is just simply a victim of misdirected revenge-type justice. Before we get to that, let's turn things over to Brian and see what he's got for us in the news today.
The first story this week is coming from your sweet home, Alabama. A federal lawsuit filed this week states that prisoners in Alabama have been denied parole and forced to work jobs at fast food restaurants as part of a labor trafficking scheme that generates $450 million a year for the state. The lawsuit alleges the prison system makes money by deducting fees from the wages of prisoners. Private companies such as KFC, Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's get a steady supply of workers from the prison system.
Well, shit, I don't even know what to say about that. I'm in Alabama, as you know, Brian. And I've got to tell you, some of these drive-thrus, I like my KFC. I kind of like... Actually, no one likes Burger King. But I can see how some inmates would be in those because some of those people at the drive-thru are assholes. Now, that being said, I did notice that it was former Alabama prisoners that are complaining. There's a good point to that. It would not be current Alabama prisoners that are complaining because they will do almost anything to get outside of the fence, especially if we're talking about a fast food restaurant where they can eat while they're there. That being said, you know, this inmate labor, I served federal time, and I served federal time at a couple of institutions where they made components for the military, and they would pay those inmates around 30 cents an hour, either to make BDUs or helicopter harnesses or things like that. So think about that, 30 cents an hour. Now in the private sector, you're talking about a wage that would probably be $30 plus an hour. Same thing what we're talking about with Alabama with inmate labor. You come in, you're paying these inmates to work at fast food instead of $10, $12, $14 an hour. You're paying them 30 cents an hour, 12 cents an hour, something like that. Of course, they get outside of the gate for that day. It's very profitable for a company to hire an inmate and do that. And there's something very wrong with that. You know, the way our society is today, the way the economy is going, to not give someone that is out there in the free world looking for a job, to not hire them just because you're looking at profit and try to make even more money and stick that money in your pocket by hiring an inmate, there's something really wrong with that. And hopefully this lawsuit goes through and we get some justice at the end of the day. Brian?
And here's one more from the heart of Dixie. The U.S. Department of Justice said 6 people have pleaded guilty over the last few months to committing fraud and theft at credit unions all across the country, including ones in Alabama. According to plea agreements, they used covert video cameras and skimming devices to target ATMs and then collect information to make fraudulent withdrawals, totaling more than $5 million. Back to you, Brett.
Sure. Okay. So here's the thing, Brian. I actually know about this case. I did a podcast on it a few months ago. The guy that was arrested, they were placing skimmers on basically the Redstone credit unions is who they were hitting. The guy who was arrested, he was doing it between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. of the morning. The credit union noticed that, so they started to monitor all ATMs at this point in time. When they started to see the transactions, they called the cops. They literally caught the guy like 3 o'clock in the morning. They rolled up on him, the police did. A foot chase ensued. They got the guy, and as you noted, there were $5 million that was stolen. This is, it's interesting that crime continues to explode in online and this mixture of online and physical world elements. In this case, skimming devices. These guys were connected through Telegram of that card. What a skimmer captures is the track data. So on the back of your credit or debit card, there are 3 data tracks on that magnetic stripe. The first data track is the customer's name. The second data track is the card number /16-digit algorithm out beside of that. The third data track is called indiscriminate data. No one uses it. What a skimmer captures, the most important thing, is that second data track, the card number /16-digit algorithm. That's what you need in order to copy the card, clone the card, counterfeit the card, whatever you want to call it, and then use a card at an ATM to steal that person's money. And then what captures the PIN is either a small camera or you have a keypad overlay that actually lays on top of the keypad that you usually type in those PIN numbers. Those things used to sell when I was on Shadow Crew. We sold those for $5,000 a pop for the skimmer and the keypad overlay or the camera. These days they sell for around $2,000, $2,500 a piece, and they're much more sophisticated these days. All right, the criminal insight of the day. And this absolutely pertains to today's show. Do your own research. One thing that you can say about criminals, experienced criminals, we who know what the hell we are doing, and I call myself a criminal because I still am one. I just choose not to break the law. What we are very good about doing is researching every single possible thing that we can. For example, as far as I know, we are the only ones that read the terms of service on websites. Well, us and lawyers. And is there a difference at the end of the day? No, there is not. But we do our research. We make sure we know what type of security systems we're going through, the targets, the different types of tools that are used, what types of tools may have been used in the past. If we're looking up someone, we make sure that we find every possible thing we can about that individual, about that target that we're targeting. That being said, bear that in mind as we carry on today's conversation, that real criminals do every single bit of research that they possibly can before engaging in an attack. Today's guest is Bill O'Hanlon. He's a Navy vet. He's a businessman, and he's currently running for mayor of Washington Township, Gloucester, New Jersey. The reason I wanted Bill to come in, Bill is facing a 13-count federal indictment. And he's going to talk to us about how he thinks he's being framed for that. And I got to tell you, he's got a good story, and we're going to go through that. Bill, thank you so much for coming on Criminal Thoughts.
Okay. Thank you for having me. And I think that there should be more people coming forward that if you're truly innocent, not the gray area, but if you're truly innocent, there should be more people coming forward before their court case so that the public can know what's happening to entrepreneurs and cronyism in law enforcement, and how they can wreck someone's life if
No, I
they
agree.
set their sights on you.
Well, Bill, if you
So-
don't mind, could you take just a few minutes out and just kind of introduce yourself to the audience? Let us know a little bit about you, who you are.
Well, I was born 1964 in the Bronx, New York. My father and mother, they married when they were young.
Okay.
And my father was in the military. We all serve in the military in my family. Like I
Nice.
served in the Navy. My father was in the Army. My brother was in the Marines, and I can go way back.
Right.
And he went to NYU 12 years at night on the GI Bill. He was stationed in Bamberg during the German occupation.
Okay.
And so, I'm familiar with being in the military and being around military people. And my father and mother both worked, and my father went to school at night, like I said, and then worked us out of the ghetto.
Right.
We lived in the South Bronx, and he got us out of the ghetto. We moved to South Jersey, Voorhees, New Jersey at first, and then over to Washington Township, which is a luxury community, Washington Township. As my father advanced in his career after getting his degree from a great school, we advanced.
Right. Yes, sir.
And I graduated from Washington Township High School in 1982. I was an athlete.
What'd you do?
I was the tennis.
Okay.
If you want to call
All
it.
right.
Right?
I'm a big tennis fan. I mean, who does not like John McEnroe? He's the guy,
Right.
So, yeah.
But I was the number one player for tennis in my high school, and I had I was a nationally ranked tennis player.
Nice,
amateur,
man.
not
Okay.
professional. And then went to college, went 2 years to Camden County College, and then went to Eastern University. I studied there. And
What'd you study?
I studied organizational management.
Okay.
And so from there, I began my business career.
Right.
And I'm not going to spend much time on it. I kind of want to get to what happened. Why?
Sure.
This is very hard for me. Every time I do this, I have to relive it.
I understand.
And
I do.
We're
I
talking
understand.
about a hateful sister and my father that I loved, that I felt was abused by them, and so it's hard for me to organize my thoughts. So,
Yes, sir.
but just I worked at Beneficial Finance, then, which was like loans and mortgages and things like that. And I also was a collector there. And
Okay.
then I worked at a company called Credit Mediators.
Now, when you say collector, what type of job is that? What is that?
That means if you don't make your monthly payment, I was on the phone trying to get you to pay it.
Okay. Okay.
So that's where my first collection experience. That's where I got my first collection experience.
Okay.
And then I went to a commercial collection agency right outside of Philadelphia called Credit Mediators. And I worked there on the collection end, making great money.
Okay.
Back then, a college graduate coming out was making $20,000 a year. And that's from good schools like
Right.
University of Delaware or Rutgers. And I was making $3,000 a month.
Okay, you were doing all
$36,000
right.
a year. So
Yeah.
I was doing a little bit better than my peers.
Yeah.
And I just had a knack for it. And then from there, I decided I wanted to start my own business.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember when there were dial-up connections. Right?
I do.
I'm
do.
59. I'm a little older than you.
Right.
But remember that noise it made?
Yep.
And then
The
it finally
28.8 baud modems and got 56 after that. Right.
So back in the day, there were bulletin board services. And the government would put, if someone wanted to buy something from the United States,
Mhm.
they had no connections. There was really no internet. So they would go to their local embassy and say, we need this for our business. And the embassy would post it.
Okay.
I would dial up, go onto the bulletin board, and I would see if I could find it. So I was acting like an import-export. It's called American Trading International.
Okay.
So I was
now, how old were you when you were doing this?
In my early 20s.
Okay. So you're on the ball, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I was, ready to go off on my own. I had an entrepreneurial spirit. And so I was doing, you wouldn't believe some of this stuff. I exported a fire truck from 1965 to Argentina, like some small town in Argentina that needed a fire truck.
Right.
I exported hot air balloons to a guy who owned 5-car dealerships in Australia, that kind of stuff.
Dude.
They weren't making that elsewhere back then.
Right.
And basically I ran into a company in South Africa called German Executive Trim. And they put on the bulletin board service that they needed the raw material for convertible tops for BMWs and Mercedes.
Okay.
I found it, Harts Manufacturing. I think they're Connecticut or Massachusetts. So I was exporting the raw material for convertible tops for BMWs and Mercedes. And then I realized that if I could sell those tops, then I'd be able to export more material. So I start calling insurance companies, and I landed an account with Maryland Casualty.
Okay.
And so when someone in South Jersey or Central Jersey called Maryland and said, a tree fell on my car, I need a new top, they would call me, and I would send the specs over, import the top here, have it installed in a local trim shop. And so I was doing good.
Gotcha.
All right. So I was doing very well. And then what happened with that business went under because Nelson Mandela became president of South Africa. There was a concern that the people with money, white people, would flee the country because it was the first black president and apartheid and all of this. So that put me out of business because I couldn't get any money out. So I went to a company called Milliken and Michaels, and they were the largest commercial collection agency in the country. Worked my way up. I decided I'm going to do like my father did and have a career in business.
Right. Now, what's the difference between commercial collection and the other collection that you were doing?
It's business to business debt. Okay. It's one business owes another business money. Consumer collections, if you don't pay your credit card bill or something like that.
Okay. So
it's considered a higher level because it's more negotiating on, freight bills and restocking fees and different things like that. So it's more negotiation than it is pay your bill.
All right.
So I was working at this company, worked my way up, vice president of marketing, done quite well. And then the company was acquired.
All right.
When that company was acquired, anyone making $80,000 a year or more was laid off, fired.
Oh.
And so that was it. I was so upset because I'd worked my way up into this position and the company went under. Well, it didn't go under. It got acquired. I went under.
Right.
So that was, my experience there. But what happened was I just started my own commercial collection agency.
Okay.
And selling and collecting and was very, very successful at it.
You've got that spirit of entrepreneurship in you.
I do. Yeah. I'm one of those.
Okay.
I am. I'm just one of those where I think there's no reason that you can't make it in this country. I have a strong belief. I'm patriotic.
Right.
I'm patriotic. Right. And I have a strong belief in our country and our system. And that with maybe hard work and a little luck, maybe you can make it in this country. And I had the experience to do it already. I already worked for other collection agencies. And so it wasn't like I was going in cold.
Right.
And it was very successful. So I also should have said somewhere in between that when I was in my 20s that I when I went from a community college to a 4-year college university, I went into the Sea and Mariner program in the Navy. It's called the SAM program.
Okay.
And what they gave you money for college, and it was just a great program to help finance your college. And I was basically doing the same thing my father did, just a little bit different. And so I love the Navy, by the way. I was a signalman, and I was on the USS Astocia. It's an FFG with guided missiles.
Nice.
And I went ahead and I loved it. I should have made a career at it. I still think about it today.
Oh, I bet, man. I wish I would have, honestly. I would have stayed out of trouble.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what happened to me in the Navy, though, is I got injured. My ship was activated for Desert Storm. That's how far back I go.
Okay.
And when it was activated for Desert Storm, there was a ship called the USS Stark. Mm-hmm. And the USS Stark was hit by an Exocet missile in the Persian Gulf.
Right.
And same class ship as mine, and its failings gun wasn't working. That was the Aegis technology on the front of the bow, the front of the ship, where I'm sorry, the front of the ship. And I'll do better. I talk in layman's terms. Sure. That was our last line of defense. And so when our ship was activated to go over to Desert Storm, they said that they would never put a ship into a war zone again unless that failing gun was working, all its battle operations, because a lot of sailors died on the USS Stark. I think it was 34 sailors that had died, and 6 signalmen. I was a signalman.
Right.
So they weren't going to put us at risk like that unless everything was working. So we didn't go. Okay. And now I'm doing my 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer, and I'm doing my reserve weekend. And they give the reservists all the worst jobs because it gives them a break. We get all the night watches, and we get, all the maintenance jobs, clean the toilets, the head.
All the shit jobs go to you. Right.
So atop the ship is called a yardarm blinker. A yardarm blinker is the highest point of the ship on the mast, and there's a light there. And that light is for signalmen. So you can speak to other ships because of the horizon. The higher you are, the further out you can see. So during radio silence, you need to communicate with other ships. So that yardarm blinker needed to be serviced. Okay. And I went up to service it. And before I went up, the quartermasters called over to all the other ships that were around us and said, we were in port, and said, signalman's going up to service the yardarm blinker and turn your radar off, because radar can kill you,
right?
As a human being. So I was up there, and it was a couple 100 feet high. I had no afraid of heights. It was fun. I was young. I was in my 20s, and I started to feel sick, started to throw up, passed out. The guys came up, saved my life, brought me down to the ship's doctor. And what had happened is one of the ships didn't get the message about me going up, and it started to spin. So what it does is it cooks you like a microwave, from the inside out. And so I'm sick. The old man came down, the captain, and said, Bill, if you want to go to the hospital, I'm all for it. If you feel sick. And I had already started to feel better, and I wasn't throwing up anymore. And so I didn't go to the hospital, because he said if I went to the hospital, it could wreck careers, something like that. And it was just someone made a mistake. And I felt better. I didn't think I was injured. And the ship's doctor did say it could sterilize you, Bill. That was one of the effects of that. And I'm in my 20s, and I didn't think much of it. and I didn't want to hurt anybody's career, because you got to remember, we were just about to go off to war.
Right.
And there's a certain camaraderie that goes with that. And you have to count on the man next to you to save your life, and he has to count on you. So I didn't go to the hospital. I come to find out a couple of years later, when I fell in love with a girl, that we were going to try and have kids, and I couldn't. So I went and got myself checked out. It wasn't happening. And then I knew I wasn't sterile before that.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you how. I just know.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm sorry to hear that, Bill.
So that bothered me. Me a lot. And if you think about it, everybody has a family.
Yeah.
I mean, just about. Think about everyone you know. Every single person has family. And I was going to miss out on that part of my life.
Right.
And it bothered me. Started drinking a lot, and it just bothered me. And so life goes on, and I'm single. Doing the collection agency in South Florida now. And my mom gets sick. My mom has cancer, and I fly home. My mother and father were just unbelievable people. I can't believe I forgot to even mention my mother earlier. She was amazing. She worked her whole life. She was the president of the union at Camden County College.
Okay.
For the service workers. Cafeteria workers were Democrats. We grew up union people.
Right.
And, so
just good, upstanding people.
No doubt. Okay. No doubt. Worked us out of a ghetto. To live in this upscale area of Washington Township, beautiful area. And so she has breast cancer, and they were able to manage her breast cancer for 12 or 13 years from her initial diagnosis. And now she's sick, and it's spreading, and we have to... what happened was, she was about to get treated for it again. They would treat the breast cancer. So if it came back a little bit, they would treat it with a different form of chemo or radiation. And that's what they do now. They can manage cancer for years. But this time it came back a little quicker, and they hadn't had a chance to treat it. And unfortunately, she broke her hip and was in the hospital. And now they're saying that they don't think she has enough strength to get the cancer treatment. And, now it's spreading.
Right.
And it spread to her lungs, and she had to go on a ventilator. Okay. Right. So prior to her going on a ventilator, I just want to say, I'm watching my mother and my father talk in the hospital room, and I'm watching romance as if you were a kid. It's unbelievable. These two people loved each other from 1940s or whatever, whenever they got married, and 1950s. And my mom was apologizing to my father about an argument they had in 1952. And I was crying. It was the most romantic thing I had ever seen. And they were like two kids, two teenagers, as if they just fell in love. And so they had that kind of love, that kind of bond. That's kind of family I grew up with. So my mom has to go on a ventilator, and my father and and before she went on the ventilator, she wanted to try, and she said that, don't pull the plug on me. I want to try and get one more summer with the grandkids. My sister was married to a captain in the New Jersey State Police, and they had kids. And every summer we would take 2 weeks down the Jersey Shore. they drop the kids off, and we'd watch the kids for 2 weeks. We'd had a blast, and it would give them a break from their own kids.
Okay.
And so that's what she wanted. She just wanted to get one more summer with the kids. That's what the thinking was, and it wasn't going to happen. So my mom's on a ventilator. I stay with my mom for 8 hours, and then my father would stay with my mom for 8 hours, and we would sleep 8 hours. And so we would never let her be alone. And now the doctors are starting to say that they think it might be time to pull the plug, or whatever the term is. But it wasn't time, okay? My mom could still communicate by writing.
Right.
She could open her eyes. It was too soon.
Right.
And it wasn't time. It wasn't time yet. So my sister and her husband come down, and we meet with the doctors. And my sister's husband, he's just a real jerk. And he was saying that he thought it was time to pull the plug.
And this is the captain in the New Jersey Police
Right.
Department. Okay.
So I'm like, it's not even your mother. What are you even doing in this room? Why? And so I'm like, look, this isn't O'Hanlon family matter. Please leave. But just disgusting. Could you imagine visiting someone else that you knew and their parents, and you're in there with the doctors saying, I think it's time for them to go? You would never do that.
Right. What
kind of person would do that? But you're going to see, this is what I came up against later. And so my mom passes away finally. And
what year was this, William or Bill?
Oh God, I'm gonna have to go back to, let's see, my father's about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And so she passes, and remember the grandkids. My sister and my brother-in-law lived about 2 hours from us in New Jersey.
Right.
And my father was going up to see the kids. And then after a while, they didn't want me going up anymore. He didn't want me to go up anymore. He didn't want me around. So, my father's in his 70s at the time. And I'm like, all right. So I would drive my father up, because it's too far of a drive for someone in their 70s, 2 hours.
Right.
And then the kids wear you out, and then you're driving home. And so I would take them up. Sometimes they'd meet us halfway and drop them off.
Okay.
So, I was still getting along with my sister, but not him.
Now, were you still drinking heavily at this point in time, or not?
Not real heavy.
Okay.
Not real heavy yet. It got a hold of me later, but drinking too much. Like, it never interrupted my work.
Right.
That was my thing. As long as I could work and pay my bills, who are you to tell me? If I want to go to happy hour after work, I'll go to happy hour after work. I was just a bar drinker. And so this is, my relationship straining with my brother-in-law. So now I'm in Miami. I moved to Miami. I had to take care of my father. First of all, when my mom passed away, they were together for 49 years. And in my family, I had seen a spouse pass that was healthy. They died of a broken heart. And I'd seen that already in my family when my great uncle passed away. My great aunt Ethel died 6 months later, but she was healthy before that. She just couldn't live without him.
Okay.
And I was determined not to let that happen to my father. But so I'm living with my father, still maintain my residence in Florida. And I realized that it's too much. He's not eating. I'm not qualified to help him. So I go through his insurance, and I find a grieving counselor that's covered under Medicare when a spouse passes away. And I start taking them to that, and it helped.
Okay.
They know what they're doing. And after a few months of that, of going to counseling once a week. Then the counselor recommended he get into a 12-step grieving counselor group, and he did that.
Okay.
And that really helped him. He was around other people that had lost their spouse, and it's like a 12-step program.
Sure.
So then it was recommended by the grieving counselor that it was time for me to leave. My father was becoming too dependent on me, almost, like I was like I was my mom.
Right.
And it was time for him to take the next step. So I moved back to Florida, and I said, "Don't worry, Dad. If you need me to come back, I'll come back. That's all." So, and the grieving group worked, and although you never get over losing someone, he got better, and he got able to deal with it, and even end up having a girlfriend later in life. So what happened to me was the drinking catches up with me in Florida.
It'll do that.
By the time I realized it was too much, it was too late.
Right.
So I was going for periods of time without drinking, maybe 3 months, and then I would drink a couple of months, and trying to stay sober, but never staying stopped.
Right.
And the things that happen when you're an alcoholic. I'm sober alcoholic now, 7 years, 10 months.
Congratulations.
And just the horrible things that happen when you're an alcoholic. You have blackouts.
Right.
You say things to people that you regret. I had a couple of DUIs. So it was a problem for me. So it was recommended to me that maybe I should go get a job somewhere and let somebody else do payroll. Let somebody else be the boss. Let somebody else be in charge. And I did. And I got a job at a company called Transworld Timeshare.
Okay.
And what they were doing is we were calling people, and we would have them put their timeshare up on our website for a fee. To sell or rent their timeshare. These were people that didn't want to own their timeshares anymore. And I didn't know, it seemed legitimate to me. There was a licensed real estate broker on staff to complete the sale. But as it turns out, they never really sold a timeshare, ever.
Okay, so let me ask you, and I want to go into this. So you got the job. How did you find the contact for the job, if you don't mind my asking?
Through someone in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay, so found the contact through there. You go to work at this company, and the company it's a scam company.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm not faulting you because you don't know when you first start.
No, I didn't know. I didn't even know after 6 months. I mean, they kept it from us.
And I guess the deal is these people are wanting out of the
scam.
Right, but they're wanting out of their timeshare contract so much that they get a call on the phone, what have you, and we can sell it for you. And then what? They just post it on some anonymous website someplace and it never sells?
They had their own website, and they would post it on their website. So, we're persuading people to pay a fee to post their timeshare on our website.
And what was the fee? Do you remember?
Anywhere from $500 to $1,500.
Okay.
And the promise was that we'll bring you offers on your timeshare.
Right.
And I used to give out my personal cell number to the clients, and I didn't know it was a scam until like 6 months later. People start calling me on my cell going, "You rotten bastard." And I was like, "What?" And so, now I go in, and they're like, "Yeah, nobody sells." So I quit. It bothered my conscience. I'm not going to do that to make a check.
You were there for 6 months? Okay.
About 6 months. And that's when I found out. And I wish I could say the moment I knew, but I didn't. The paychecks were big. You're making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a week. And it's hard to just go from your bills being one way and then jumping another way. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to collections.
Sure.
But what I thought was, I just want to make it clear that I did not know that the company was a scam.
Sure.
I thought it was legitimate. It was a nice office. There were staff there. I mean,
Right.
they
Right.
had me fooled. But I decided to use my collection skills to help people get money back from fraudsters.
Okay. And that's a noble goal. I mean, so
Right.
you found out you worked at a scam company.
Right.
They were ripping these timeshare owners off. And you have the idea.
It was legal stealing.
I understand. But they were still doing it. It was unscrupulous. Let's call it like that. All right.
It's unethical for sure.
Unethical. So and you have the idea. Well, you know what I can do is I'll build a business where I collect from the people who have been scammed by these unethical, unscrupulous companies. That's a noble goal.
Exactly right.
Okay. So you ran a collection company.
Right, back in the collections, but it was more to help these people that had paid companies. And what I had found out was, as I was doing the collections, is that the majority of my clients end up being senior citizens. I wasn't seeking out seniors, but they're susceptible to these scams. Seniors don't want to leave these timeshares to their kids.
Right.
And they say the going joke in the timeshare industry, if you want your kids to say good things about you when you're gone, don't leave them a timeshare. That's what they say. So
I guess because of the increasing fees, all this stuff that goes on at that point.
Exactly. So
Okay.
I'm going to go in and I'm going to collect this money back. And, of course you work on commission. If they get money back, you get a commission.
Okay.
But they get the money first. And what happened was I found out that my first 6 months in business, I was unable to get any money back for anyone that paid by credit card if it was outside the dispute period.
Okay.
So I had to have leads that were within the dispute period. I had to buy leads saying they paid 2 months ago and get the money back. And,
So you would buy lead sheets of timeshare owners.
Right, from lead distributors, lead brokers. And I'm on the phone and I'm always fighting for these people.
Sure.
I can't believe that, so many of these clients were ripped off $100,000.
Right.
They would pay over and over again. And now they're being told by the fraudsters that if you pay us $5,000, we'll have a check for $50,000. And by the time we have a 180-day money-back guarantee, and 180 days rolls around and their phone numbers are disconnected. So that was absolute fraud.
Right.
That wasn't legal stealing. That was stealing.
Right.
And I was having a hard time getting the money back. And one day I had a Capital One fraud manager on the phone, and we were just going over, there was like 17,000 in charges on the credit card, and I was trying to get the money back. Guy was like 82.
Okay.
And she just said, it's a shame because if you had filed it this way, and she started talking to me about how the credit card companies are and took me behind the curtain of the fraud department. And she just took a liking to me, and she told me exactly how to legally file a claim.
Okay.
When it's outside the dispute period.
So what chargeback excuse to use?
Exactly. And then the customer would get the money back.
Okay.
The next day, I collected $6,000 from my customer. At 50%.
So all of a sudden you got the secret sauce.
That's right. I didn't know how to do it before, but I guess I made my own luck. If you make enough calls and you keep trying, because, I felt guilty about working at the other company. That was my driving factor. I got to figure this out.
Right.
I knew there was a way. And thank God this fraud manager just took a liking to me, and she told me exactly how to file it.
Okay.
So very lucrative, making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a week, and helping people.
Right.
Feeling really good about what I'm doing. In Florida, this is a regulated industry. Mm-hmm. You have to be licensed and bonded. The people that work for you have to be licensed. You have to submit a script to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services
Okay.
that needs to be approved, and then you need to stick to that script.
Gotcha.
And so it's a licensed, regulated industry in Florida. So in 2015, I get a call from one of my friends in New Jersey who says his wife calls me and says that I just saw your father in the CVS and he didn't recognize me, Bill. He didn't know who I was. And this was odd because this is someone he's known for 30 years.
Right.
So I go up to check on my father. So I get there and he seems, because I talk to him every day on the phone, but seniors can hide if they're having problems. By doing that. Once you get there and you live with them, then you find out what's really going on. For example, the house was a little bit disheveled. It wasn't keeping up. That's the first sign that there's a problem. And so he tells me that my sister and her husband want to put him into a nursing home, assisted living. And he doesn't want to go.
Right.
And he asked me if I could move in and help take care of things because he had a 3,500 square foot home and help him. And I'm thinking, of course, there's the least I can do. I mean, I don't have any kids, not married.
Right.
And, you know, my father in time of need, as he got older in life, needs my help, I'm there.
Right.
So I'm thinking my sister will be happy that I'm moving in to take care of daddy because now I thought she had good intentions. I thought she wanted to put him into assisted living because she wanted to make sure he was okay.
Right.
That wasn't the truth. My father had done quite well. He's worth a few $1 million. And what they wanted was to get at his money. And I move in and now I'm interfering.
Yeah, you spoil everything.
Right. So I'm thinking they're going to say, oh, it's great that you moved in. Thank God. And the opposite comes. So during that period of time, I meet my current wife, Karen. She's not putting up with the drinking. Slaps me in the face and says, you ever drink again, I'm gone. And it's very hard to find love late in life. And I quit.
All right. So you got a good woman there that got your ass in line.
Karen.
Right. All right.
I love Karen to death and she loves me. And I wasn't going to lose it over drinking. So that was it. I never drank again.
Okay, good.
And Karen moves in with me and my father to help take care of my dad because it's hard to take care of a person.
Sure.
And I decide I want to grow the collection agency again. And I'm telling you, there is so much fraud being perpetrated against senior citizens. You have no idea.
Right.
I mean, I could tell you, and you wouldn't believe me. I would say $1 billion just in the timeshare industry alone every single year. And I could hire 1,000 people and barely scratch the surface of the fraud. So I decide, instead of being just selfish and me working alone or just with a few people I want to help as many seniors as I can. And so I decide to grow the company,
So do you transfer the company from Florida to New Jersey or what?
Right.
Okay.
That's right. I just, opened up under a new name and started again.
Okay.
And
why under a new name?
Because the other name was called Williams and O'Hanlon, and that's my name.
Okay.
And if I was going to grow it, I just wanted it to sound Williams and Burns, and that was the name of my company before when I was doing commercial collections. So I still want to use my name, and company's doing amazing. We're collecting millions of dollars. We're up to 55 employees.
Nice.
And I have a heart attack.
Oh, geez, dude. Now, what year is this?
So I have 100% clogged artery, and it's twisted. All right. So I'm given no hope. Um, when they found out that I had a clogged artery, they were surprised that I wasn't dead.
Right.
And my body did its own bypass.
Right.
And they sent me right to Our Lady of Lourdes, and I had an unsuccessful operation because it was a clogged, twisted artery in the middle. So clog on two sides, twisted in the middle, so they couldn't push through to put a stent in.
Right.
And so they can't fix it, and I'm given not much time to live, maybe a year or two. And this sucks. And I'm remembering back to that microwave.
Yeah.
Because the odds of having that, it's just highly unlikely. It's not normal. And so I'm sick.
Right.
And now I got this big company. Well, 55 people's a lot. And my companies later dwarfed it, but it was a lot at the time. But my strength in business has always been my work ethic.
Okay.
Above average intelligence, but a crazy work ethic.
All right.
I'll go 10 a.m. to midnight work, and I love working. And so that was always my strength. And now I couldn't be present in the office. So I train these managers to take over. And I'm like, listen, I'm dying. I'm sick. If you want a job, all right, you need to do this company yourself, and I will train you on how to do it.
Okay.
And I did. And we were A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. Everything's going great. But I'm receiving calls from my sister and her husband, my sister's husband,
Right.
saying, get the F out of the house. If you don't get out, I'm going to come down there. I'm going to drag you out of the house. The first call I got threatening from him was February 1st of 2016. And I only remember it because that's my sobriety date.
Okay.
Never took a drink after February 1st.
Gotcha.
And so, again, with this guy, right? Captain, New Jersey State Police. Who does this guy think he is?
Right.
It's my father. It's not your father. But he wanted my father's money. And this went on for years, a few years, and over again. And then finally what happened was they realized how successful the commercial collection agency was, and they were very jealous over that. And I guess because of maybe the way I lived my life, like a free spirit, before that,
Right.
not working for myself always. And, he had a career in the New Jersey State Police and became captain. My sister has a master's degree, 2 master's degrees, and is a school teacher.
Okay.
Good job, though, in New Jersey,
sure.
union job. So that's how they did it in life. And just very jealous. I get sober and all of a sudden I have $1 million a year company. This isn't fair.
Right.
They want my dad's money, and I stand in between them and the money because I'm living in the house. So they can't put him into assisted living with me there because my wife and I are taking care of him.
Okay.
My sister calls me up one day, and the relationship had just gone horrible. She's calling me names, a drunk, and all of this stuff, and just horrible names, you piece
Right.
of crap, and all this, because they wanted his money.
Right.
And so she calls me up and says, I just looked you up on the BBB, and I had 2 complaints. And you're stealing from old people.
Oh, wow.
And I go, no, I'm not. We're A-rated with the BBB.
Right.
We have, I think, 2,000 clients and maybe 4 or 5 complaints. Any business is going to have complaints.
Well, sure, absolutely. So, Bill, what year was this that she called you up and said this?
I think it was 2018.
2018. Okay.
Mm-hmm. 2018. And she said, you're going to go to jail and all this stuff. And I'm like, what are you, crazy? We're A-rated with the BBB. We're helping people.
Sure.
We get the money back first, then we rely on the clients to pay us. We work on commission. And
so you weren't taking any, I mean, it was just a straight commission collection fee, right?
We had to take something in advance, like $500 or $1,000,
Okay.
just so that the customer would have some skin in the game.
Right.
They would cooperate with what we needed to do, order back credit card statements and things like that. And maybe, we've had some customers that stiffed us after we did the collection. So it helped offset that.
Okay.
But yeah, that was it. I mean, when you're talking about collecting $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, it's pales in comparison to what we're getting them back.
Sure.
But yeah, otherwise they're like, oh, I haven't had a chance to do it. But as soon as they put some money down, now they want action. And that's what we wanted. We wanted them to cooperate with us.
Okay.
So we're collecting about $1 million a year at this point. And it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. So she threatens me and says, we're going to have you put in jail. And I'm like, what? So 2 weeks after that phone call, the FBI comes banging on our door.
2 weeks after?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2 weeks after this phone call. And I just can't stress this enough. In this particular industry, to be A-rated, and the lowest our rating ever went was a B-, is amazing. It's an amazing accomplishment.
Absolutely.
And so they come in the middle of the night, like 5:30 in the morning or something.
Yeah, it's usually 6 a.m. Is what it is.
So
I know that for a fact. It's usually right at 6. That's what they try.
We're in shock. It's me, my father, and Karen.
Right.
And it's like, FBI let us in, search warrant, and they come into the house, and they have a search warrant.
What was the basis of the search warrant? Do you remember what the basis was?
They never told us.
Okay.
They never told us. I mean, even when they left, because we were like, first of all, they went through the whole house. My father kept $50,000 in cash always because he didn't believe in banks.
Right.
And he was always afraid like his bank might go under. And and what we see in the news nowadays, maybe he's right.
Right.
So
how many agents came in with the search warrant?
Oh, at least a dozen.
So a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
And they were. You got to understand something. I have great reverence for law enforcement.
Right.
I'm thinking FBI. I have this opinion of them of helping save our country. I'm a patriot. And this was not this is not what they really are.
Okay.
It was like they were laughing and joking, and me, my wife, and my father, you have to sit on this sofa, and they're going through everything.
Right.
And my wife says that she had to use the bathroom, and when she came back, she said that they found your father's money. And I was like, oh, okay. So
the 50,000.
Right. So what?
Right.
I didn't think I could take it. And so not only did they take it, but I decided to go up and see what she was talking about, my wife. And they were in a spare bedroom and had the money in the middle, and there were like 6 or 8 agents surrounding the bed on their knees. Okay. And they were throwing it up in the air going, we're rich, we're wealthy, and like this. And just everything was a big joke to them.
Sure.
And we were horrified by this. And, I have no criminal record.
Right.
And obviously my wife, Karen, has no criminal record. So they're throwing the money up in the air. They see me, they stop. And I'm like, whatever, guys, I went back downstairs, and we're now at the kitchen table, and they're, why are you here? What is going on? And he won't tell me. He won't tell me why he's there. The lead investigator's name was Michael T. Polton, and he was horrible, obnoxious to me, and
right.
won't say why that they're there, starts asking me questions. Have you ever been arrested before? And I was, no. And he said, well, what about this DUI in 2015? And I was like, well, in Jersey, that's a misdemeanor. Well, it's still an arrest. And I was like, okay, I thought you meant felonies, like this. So
Sure.
you're lying to the FBI. I could charge you with that. And I was, why are you here? Why are you in my house? Why are you in my parents' house? And he wouldn't tell us. And so now I have to sign for the money. It's the last thing I have to do. And I'm like, Dad, I don't know why I have to sign for your money, but and it says $32,000. So now I'm scared because I know it's 50. I know for a fact it's 50, and I know 18's missing, and now I know I'm dealing with corruption.
So you knew it was 50. You saw 6 or 8 agents gathered around the bed, throwing the money up, playing with it. We're rich, so that when they seized the money,
we don't have to work again. They were just having a good old time.
When they seized the money, $18,000 is missing.
That's exactly right.
So you're saying that that 8 agents are potentially giving up their career for less than $3,000 apiece.
And unless Michael got all the money. I don't know. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, I guess. I don't think they think they're going to get, no one's ever going to do anything to them. They're going to say I'm a liar.
I mean, but we've got 12 agents in the house, right? So 12 agents roaming around the house, and the potential of just, you got 6 or 8. They obviously knew that it was 50 if they counted it. So it had to be the 6 or 8 that took the money at that point, because if it's 6 or 8 and you're saying maybe Michael took it all, he would be worried about them. Him. Okay, you always thought it was him, but what about the 6 or 8 that would have known it was 50?
I don't know where they counted it.
Okay.
I don't know where they counted it. I don't know who counted it. I don't know where they counted it. But yeah, I guess so. I mean, everybody made a couple grand each that day, if that was the case.
I mean, it's just, you see what I'm saying? That's a hell of a low dollar amount to potentially throw away an FBI career for.
In the search warrant, it said they thought that we had 90,000. So maybe they thought it was going to be a bigger score than what it was.
I understand.
But.
And they searched the office at the same time?
Pardon me?
They searched your offices at the same time? Or not?
Simultaneously.
Okay.
So that's what we said. We were sitting, and he said, we're also at your office in Williamstown, New Jersey. And I was like, oh, all right. So my father says, well, I guess that's it for the business then. And the agent, Michael T. Polton, was adamant. I never said that. I never said you had to shut down. Don't put words in my mouth. Why are you here then? Why? What is going on here? So they left. They took some computers. They took the money, forced me to sign for 32 when I, protested. And they said that, if I didn't sign, they were going to stay. They were going to go up and down the street and embarrass us with our neighbors like they didn't already know. And Karen and my father were like, Bill, just sign for it. And I said, okay. So I signed it under protest, and they left.
Okay.
Now, I hadn't heard anything from them really for a little bit. And now I'm being investigated by the New Jersey State Attorney General's office at the same time. So
so the FBI is investigating you.
Right.
The State Attorney General's investigating you.
Exactly. So I hired
for timeshare fraud.
They never really said.
Okay.
No one ever really said what it was.
Okay.
They never accused me. There was no arrest warrant. They never said. They were just investigating the company, and that they wanted to subpoena certain things.
Right.
And one of the FBI was doing it simultaneously with the New Jersey State Attorney General.
Okay.
And that's, difficult now because I've never had any legal issues before, and I'm getting 2 agencies coming at me at the same time.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, it is, but we knew we weren't doing anything wrong.
Sure.
We were now sending most of the money we were making to our legal firm that was representing us.
Okay.
Because I knew I was dealing with corruption, terrified. I better get good attorneys.
Right.
I don't want to end up being one of those innocent people that go to jail. So now do you mind if I take a break and go to the bathroom?
No, sir. No, you go right ahead. Yes, sir. I appreciate you just taking the time to talk to me. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
5 minutes later.
Thank you, guys.
No, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So
I'm 59. I got to go to the bathroom.
No, hey, I know I'm 54. Well, I'm going to be 54 next month. So I know where you're at.
You'll be able to edit it.
Oh yeah, we're good on that. So
Okay.
FBI comes in, they do the search warrant.
Right.
No arrest yet.
No arrest.
But they do the basic FBI thing of, hey, we're investigating you. We're going to let everybody know that we're investigating you.
Right. That's right.
Right. And that's a basic tactic. We all know that.
Well, I never knew that. I'm in sheer terror. The FBI coming to your house is a big deal.
Yeah.
And we really didn't know why. We really didn't. And I didn't make the connection to my sister and her brother-in-law because I didn't think he had that kind of power.
Right.
But I was wrong. And he had warned me beforehand. He had said, you don't think I can have you arrested? And I was like, no, I don't think you can have me arrested. Don't you have to do something wrong?
Right.
And he was saying, I'm going to put you in jail for the rest of your life. For what?
So all because of just them wanting your dad's money.
The greed. Yeah, it was a few million
dollars. That's crazy,
dollars.
man. That's crazy.
And so, and I didn't think my sister would ever do that to me.
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah, were you and your sister pretty close growing up or not?
Very close.
Yeah?
Very close. Yeah, I was her big brother. God, I love her to death. I still love her.
No, I know.
I still can't believe what people would do for money.
So when were you indicted, William?
I was indicted last April.
Last April. Okay.
That's when I was indicted. And they had investigated me for 4.5 years. But what they did was this.
Right.
I'm willing to cooperate.
Sure.
When I was in Florida, remember I told you it was a regulated industry?
Yes, sir.
Well, they came around, the regulators, and they investigated and they said, you're cleared. You're doing the right thing. It's finally nice to see someone's doing the right thing. And I'm thinking this is what's going to happen with the FBI and the New Jersey AG.
Why were you investigated in Florida? What prompted that?
Well, in a regulated industry, sometimes it's normal.
Okay.
It's normal. If you own a stockbroker firm, they come around and investigate.
I got you.
Accounting, commercial collection agencies are regulated. They look at your books, make sure you're doing everything proper.
Right.
It wasn't a criminal investigation. It was just a normal regulatory investigation.
Okay, so it's like an audit or something like that, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Okay. That makes sense.
That.
Okay.
But like I said, there was a lot of fraud going on in Florida, and they gave me a clearance. They actually gave me a nice letter. And the investigators said that it was finally nice to see someone doing the right thing. Nice. And I was like, all right, know. So I'm thinking this is what's going to happen in New Jersey. Same thing, they'll figure it out. We're getting more back for the clients than what they're paying, a lot more.
Right.
And it'll go away, or they'll come to an end to arrive at a conclusion. So now here's what they do. They attacked my business. They began, first of all, when the FBI came in, I lost 50 staff. I went from 55 employees to 5.
Right.
All right. And they were like, I'm sorry, Bill. You have to understand that I have kids. And I'm like, but you talk to the clients. Are your clients being... No, they're all saying they get money back and they're happy. Why would you quit? But they did. And I'm a sober alcoholic, and I'm hiring people, giving people second chances at life. So if you had an alcohol or a drug problem and you had a felony as a result, and now you're clean and sober, you could get hired by me.
Right.
And I felt like that was important. It was my part of my program of staying sober to help someone have a job. And if you work 8 hours and you sleep 8 hours, now you only have to stay sober 8 hours.
Right.
More manageable. And how do they expect felons not to reoffend if you don't give them a job?
I agree.
For God's sake. So, some of the people that work for me had felonies.
Okay.
And I guess they looked down on that. They looked at it as, for whatever reason. I also had an inordinate of African Americans working for me because in sales, I don't see color. I see green. Money is green.
Okay.
And in sales, when that's your profession as a salesperson, you can work for a company that gives preferential treatment, gives this one over here the better leads. That's why he's making more money than the others. And these guys found out, and word got around, that you get a level playing field with me, like in the military. And it's based on performance, and I don't care. So they would call their friend and say, come over here, we're helping people. Plus in sales, there's a lot of people that say, if they could just find a good service or product that they could believe in, they'd be able to throw themselves into it. And that's what they had with me. When you have a senior citizen call the salesman back and say, the collector just got me back $5,000. I'm so grateful. I have to put a hot water heater into my house, and I live in Wisconsin and it's cold. Now I have the $1,800 to do it. Where do I send your $2,500? Like that. Salesmen feed off of that. Like, wow, this feels great.
It's a good feeling job. Yeah.
Right. Rather than if you sell a car, you may love cars, but it's a machine.
Right.
We're helping people.
Right.
And we're helping people that are being preyed upon.
Right.
We're helping people that are susceptible to these fraudsters. And
let me ask you something, because that's a very admirable thing to try to collect money from companies who have preyed on other people.
Yeah.
That's very admirable. But I've been reading, I was reading over the indictment. Mm-hmm. And let's see here, what page? It's page 6 of the indictment.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. So it says defendant, this is part I under rental services. It says defendant William O'Hanlon, defendant James Toner, William Chusano, LaTeresa Jackson, Alice Clemish, Michael Lamb, and others were sales conspirators who initiated contact with timeshare owners by cold calling them and offering to rent their timeshares for an upfront fee. The rental services offered by the sales conspirators were, however, used as a bait and switch to obtain customers for quote-unquote collection services, and were based upon the following knowing false and fraudulent representations. My question is that if you're a collection company, why call them and first offer rental services?
What happened, we didn't. We would offer.
So they're lying on that indictment.
We would offer them the collection services.
Okay.
And then what happened was there was a learning curve. They would then take the money we got them back and pay another fraudster again and again. Okay. So we were running into, I felt bad for these people. So we said, look, what we'll do is we'll advertise their timeshare. We'll put together a rental department for free. No additional fee, no additional money.
So you didn't charge them up to $1,800 for rental listings? Because that's what the indictment says as well.
Collection services.
So
we would never take a client on if it wasn't for collections. Like say someone said were never ripped off, we turned that money away. And we turned away $400,000. That's what's called a turn away in my business.
Okay.
We rejected $400,000 in sales because the customer said that they didn't have any more collections. So we would offer the collection services first, And then we would say, we will also advertise your timeshare for free. And that's what we did.
Okay,
And
because
we
the indictment doesn't read that way. The indictment says that you offered rental services, and then oftentimes the customers did not even know anything about the collection services until they received the packet from you guys regarding the rental services, and then that the money back guarantee was tied in expressly with all of that together.
Yeah, we didn't even offer rental advertising until like the first year or two in business. It was just straight collections.
Okay.
But then what happened is when these people began to pay fraudsters again, and there was one in particular where a lady had paid $80,000 international wire transfer.
Oh, wow.
To Mexico.
Right.
And she called in and she's like, hey, can you help me get this back? And I'm like, how are we going to help you get that back? It's an international wire.
Right.
And she just screamed and shrieked, really, is what it was. Because we had done so many successful collections for her, she just figured she could send a wire and we would get it back. And we couldn't get it back. So we said, why don't we offer the advertising for free so that they won't pay another fraudster, and we'll actually advertise their timeshare and bring them people that want to go on vacation. And we did that.
Okay,
That's
so
exactly what we did. We matched 78 customers up with 78 clients that wanted to go on vacation. 78 people that want to go on vacation, and 78 people that had vacations that they weren't using. And we matched them up directly.
And the indictment says something about it. It says the timeshare owner had 3 bonus or getaway weeks, which were not part of the ordinary deeded timeshare time. In actuality, the timeshare owner did not have any of those bonus or getaway timeshare weeks, and that you guys claimed that they did when they didn't, and that you also instilled a sense of urgency in that timeshare owner by claiming that, you know, the time was going to run out to rent them. Is that true or not? No.
No, it's not true.
Okay.
And you have to understand timesharing.
Sure.
To understand what that means.
Okay.
We're calling for collections.
Right.
We're collecting millions of dollars.
Right.
These customers
and charging an advance fee for that collection.
That's right.
Okay.
And then a commission on whatever we collect.
50%.
Right.
Okay.
And they get the money first. So we have to trust them to pay us. And then we offered the rental advertising for free because we didn't want them paying any more fraudsters.
Sure.
And we were actually going to do it, and we did.
Right.
And we actually had 55,000 in successful rentals, and we had 78 customers that we matched up. But all you have to do is Google RCI bonus weeks.
Sure.
And the government doesn't understand timesharing or something. So you have bonus weeks when you own a timeshare. You have a membership with RCI. There's an exchange bank involved, and you can use them. You can rent them out. You can do all of that. And if you sit to a timeshare presentation, they'll tell you all of this.
Right.
So I don't know why they're saying that, but what I can tell you is that all the resorts now have class action lawsuits against them.
Right.
For telling people that their timeshare wasn't available and they were putting it up on Expedia for rent. And how am I supposed to help rent your timeshare out if the resort is saying, remember those 78 people? Every single time the resort said, there's nothing available, there's nothing available, there's nothing available.
Sure.
And we were like that. We just thought they oversold. We didn't know they were actually lying to the customers and renting out their time that they may have spent $50,000 for a timeshare on to the general public. Okay.
So your company did not charge for a yearly fee $1,899 and for a lifetime fee $2,899 to provide those rental services? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, we're a collection agency that offered the rental advertising.
Okay.
And we actually did the rental advertising. And I actually later on was able to perfect it.
Right. Right.
I applied for a patent and got a provisional patent on our rental program.
That's nice.
Because the resorts, I didn't know that the resorts were just telling people that.
Right.
I thought that they oversold. So if time sharing, there's only 52 weeks in a year. And if you have one unit, you can only sell one unit a year, right?
Right.
But they were overselling, like almost like a flight that overbooks. They were overselling it. So when you went to go book, there was nothing available. This is what I thought.
I got you.
But so they may have sold one unit 50 times.
Right.
But what they were really doing is telling their own customers that there was no time available. And that wasn't true. It was available. They were putting their time up on Expedia and renting it out to the general public. We didn't know that at the time. We know now. And we rented out. They weren't, so now they all have class action lawsuits against them.
Okay.
Because I was obsessed with the rental. I'm going to solve this rental program.
Right.
My idea was we'll be travel affiliate companies. So our websites, what I did was I played off the keywords of the big boys like Airbnb, Expedia. So I owned Airbnb, Airbnb, cheapresorts.com.
Okay.
Airbnb, like I had all different variations and I had a dozen of them.
Okay.
So, but they were international and they were in 18 different languages. So when a customer went on, could be anywhere in the world, and it looked just like Expedia. It looked like Orbitz, looked like Expedia, except we were a travel affiliate. And we would commission out on flights, on rental cars, on different things. And we would take that money and send that money to our clients as advertising income checks. Okay. And I got a provisional patent on it because that's what we were doing. We were doing advertising. We're not real estate agents. We're doing advertising. And the customers received $55,000 in rental income checks. But that program cost more money to make money. Like I would have to advertise $100,000 to make the $55,000. So it worked, but it wasn't profitable. Right. So we discontinued that program.
Okay. So on the collections, and you've explained that. I appreciate that. On the collections, so what the indictment says is it says that it's basically credit card chargebacks, and I do have some experience in credit card chargebacks. Okay. So with credit card chargebacks, the way the indictment reads is that you would have the person who had been ripped off signed on with your company to get their money back. Right. And then your company would call, say, Capital One. And the indictment says that your company's officer would persuade that victim into lying to the bank agent about first the relationship of that company's agent, saying that, hey, they're related to me or whatever. But not only that, but your company's employee would also tell that victim to lie to the bank about the cause for the chargeback. I didn't make that charge. It wasn't as described, whatever that reason would be.
There was no need for that. And I'm going to go back to the conversation I had with Capital One and proprietary information. But I can tell you this. If someone is 80 years old and they're on a fixed income and they're giving away their life savings, they're not remembering the charges that they're doing. They're just not. And that's what we were dealing with. We were dealing with competency issues a lot of times. So there's a way to do it legally, and we did. And our clients do become our friends. Right. And we followed the law. Okay. All right. So there was never any issue with
because the indictment reads the indictment reads that in some cases temporary credits were given, and then what happens with a chargeback? So I bank with Wells Fargo, and I bank with Wells Fargo because I believe one criminal deserves another. But usually on a monthly basis, I'll come up with a list of chargebacks of things that are not as described or that I did not order or what have you. And I will call Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo, when I tell them these stuff, they will give me a temporary credit for whatever that amount is on that card, much like your customers did when they complained to the bank.
Right.
Now, sometimes my complaints do not get justified. And the bank rules that, hey, that temporary credit that we gave you, we're taking away from you. Just like the indictment reads with you guys, that sometimes the bank would take away the temporary credit. And at that point, the person's already paid you 50%. That person complains to you that, hey, I'm out of that. And the indictment reads that at no point did you ever give these people that 50% of their funds back, so they ended up losing even more money at that point.
No.
That never happened.
No. That's, again, there's a certain way to file a fraud complaint.
Okay.
And you're talking about disputes.
I am.
Okay. We never filed a dispute.
So the indictment's wrong on that.
The indictment's wrong.
Okay.
These people were defrauded. And what happens is when the fraudsters were calling these people up and saying that there were a check for their timeshare, a buyer for their timeshare, all right, and then they would take a $5,000 payment over the phone by credit card,
right,
and the customer's expecting a $50,000 check,
right,
in 6 months, and they don't get it,
right,
all right, so when they don't get it, they start filing complaints with the credit card company. And after a certain amount of complaints, they will freeze the merchant account.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So when we filed a fraud complaint and the credit card company realized that there were return mail and disconnected phone numbers, they would then go see, is there money in the merchant account from the fraudster?
Right.
And they would take that money from the merchant account and refund our customer.
Okay.
So the credit card companies never lost a penny, and I'm not being indicted by the credit card companies.
No, I know that.
It's just the fraudster giving back the money to the defrauded elderly person.
Okay.
That's what it is.
So the people who complained that your company wouldn't pay them back, they were just mistaken.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying we didn't have any accounts that we weren't perfect.
Right.
But I'm saying of almost a total of 4,000 clients, we had about 10 complaints.
Okay. And that would be the 9 or 10 victims that are listed in the indictment.
Right. And
okay.
Well, I don't know I'm not sure about that. But what I'm saying is we offered a money back guarantee.
Sure.
And if we were unable to collect money for them, we issued $135,000 in refunds.
Okay.
All right. So
out of how many customers?
I'm saying a couple thousand customers total at the time. So I'm not sure how many. I'll have to find. I would have to look at that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my case now. And it's hard for me. I don't want to give them any heads up.
No, I understand.
Our customers, look, we would be, if you have 2,000 customers and you have 4 or 5 complaints, we would be inundated with complaints if our customers weren't getting money back.
Right.
Now, if there were customers there were so many different aspects of it. For example, when you're a fraudster and you charge someone on their credit card and then you see the money come out of your merchant account and go back to the customer, sometimes the fraudster will just rebill it without authorization again. Right. And the customer thinks, oh, the credit card company put the money back on my credit card. No, there's a code. It was the fraudster that rebuilt your card and had no right to do it. We would get that removed again. So and
would you charge the customer again 50% for doing that? Because the indictment kind of reads like it.
No.
And you were calling it a retread.
No,
No.
no, that's
Okay.
not what it was. So
Okay.
we
Okay.
get the customer money back. We get 50% of whatever we collect. Very few ever went back on the car.
Okay.
That's just the way it is.
So anybody that wanted a refund from you guys, they would basically get it.
Well, what I'm saying is the government start attacking my company.
Sure.
You're acting as if we're just a company out there. The FBI is not investigating the New Jersey AG. That's not what's happening.
Right.
What's happening is they're calling my banks and closing my bank accounts, and they're having my staff. It's not like a regular company. They attacked the company without charging me with a crime.
Right. They're doing subpoena requests for the banks, I guess is what they're doing at that point.
That's exactly right.
Right. So
And
9 different bank accounts.
at least.
Right.
At least.
Why 9 bank accounts?
Because they kept shutting our banks down.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Well, I didn't know why your company had to have 9 different bank accounts.
Because the FBI would call the bank and say we're investigating them for fraud and shut the bank account down.
So you're just trying to stay ahead of the curve on that.
Yes, of course.
I got you.
You had to open up more accounts in order to do payroll.
So the indictment comes down. 7 people indicted.
The indictment comes down 4.5 years later after
Right.
the search warrant.
Right.
And I have other companies now that have nothing to do with this company here.
Okay.
All right. So we end up being able to connect with a law firm that would be able to cancel the customer's timeshare. So we would do the recovery, and then the customer would say, "Can you get me out of my timeshare?" And then we send it over to the law firm, and they would get the customer
That's
out.
not bad. That's not
right.
bad, right? I mean, that's so somebody that they don't have to pass that shitty ass timeshare down to their kids, right?
That's right.
That's not bad. That's not
And
bad.
because of the class action lawsuits, a lot of times they got some money back.
Okay, so was there a fee being charged for that or not?
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
How much was the
Attorneys
fee on
don't
that?
work for free.
No, I got you. How much was the fee for that?
It would depend on the customer situation.
Okay.
But I can't go into those fees. But
No, I
I would
understand.
say my competitors like Wesley Financial and Timeshare Exit Team, I think it is.
Right.
They would charge between $30,000 and $35,000 to
Oh, wow.
exit someone out of their timeshare, and we would charge
But it's
far
worth
less
it.
than that.
Yeah, but it's worth it to do that, right? If you can get them
Yeah,
out.
of course. I mean, some of these customer-owned $1 million timeshares and their maintenance fee are $10,000 a year, and they haven't used it for 10 years.
Right.
So they're out $100,000.
And I'm not at that page on the indictment right now, but from what I read on the indictment, only one person was able to sign out of that.
I'm talking about another company after WAB. WAB didn't offer that service.
Okay.
We hadn't developed a relationship with the attorney yet.
Right.
It was WAB did timeshare recovery from fraudsters, and we did the rental advertising for free.
Okay.
That was it. And so, yeah, I mean, 90% of the clients were in the plus.
So 90%, I mean, that's not a bad number. If 90% of your clients are happy, that's not a bad number at all, you know?
Right. Some got refunded. But the next company, I had perfected the next company because I was very sick at the time with the first company.
Right.
Okay. You remember I had the heart attack,
right.
and I couldn't be there. So I was very sick with that. And the next company with RJD, there was no more money back guarantee. All right. You can't do that because I just found that with WAB, we found that someone would say there was stipulations to the money back guarantee.
Right.
For example, someone would pay us to do collections.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We get the money back, and then they would get a call from the fraudster, and the fraudster would go, "What are you doing? We just got a check for you." And they would call the credit card company and say, "Put the money back on the card. They finally got a check." And then that check never came. And then they came back to us for their money back on the fee. And we were like, it clearly states in our money back guarantee that you can't talk to the credit card company without us. If you decide to put the money back on the card or you were defrauded, you're not, because it takes these phone calls to get them their money back sometimes take up to 2 hours. So we can't be spinning our wheels for people that are not, they're getting defrauded again, and they're putting the money back on the card. You can't have that. Remember, we're dealing with senior citizens.
No, I got you. And I noticed that the indictment says that some of those senior citizens refused to tell the lies that your employees were trying to tell them to tell the credit card companies.
No, there's no lies. There's nothing to lie about.
Well, I mean, if it would be a lie if the customer actually remembered the transaction and had approved the transaction, and then your employee said for the customer to say, "I don't remember that." That would be a lie.
There was no need to do that.
Okay.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, and while we were talking, I found that section that I was that I didn't know if I could find it or not. It says
there's
that
enough fraud going on.
No, I got you.
Senior citizens, where you don't have to ask a senior citizen to lie.
Yeah. So under timeshare takeovers and buyouts, just track back on this for a second. The sales conspirators occasionally offered some timeshare owners an opportunity to sell or transfer their timeshares out of their names in return for a fee. This was appealing to some timeshare owners, mostly elderly owners, based upon their decreased ability to travel, ever-increasing fees charged by timeshare companies and or the timeshare owners' fixed incomes. And here's what's interesting. In all but one known case, the timeshares were not transferred or sold, and the timeshare owners lost their payments to WAB and also continued to incur timeshare fees.
We're not selling any timeshares.
You didn't transfer any out either.
We didn't. With the attorney, the attorney got everybody out of their timeshare.
Says in all but one known case they didn't.
It's not true.
Not true.
I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
It's not true. You sound like the government. It's
I'm just asking these questions. I'm just going through the indictment.
Records. And it sounds to me like you think that we were doing something wrong, and we weren't.
I'm not a judge, man. But I am wondering why 3 people have already pled guilty out of the 7 that were indicted.
Well, Latricia Jackson, after WAB was shut down, decided to call some of our old customers and say that she had a check for their timeshare, went into Walmart on video and had the customer send her a MoneyGram and stuck it in her pocket.
Okay.
They committed crimes outside of my company.
But they
got caught.
But they pled guilty to crimes committed in your company.
Well.
With that indictment that you are part of.
Right.
So that has nothing to do with Walmart MoneyGram getting a check sent to her ass.
Okay. Well, if you don't think that they told them, if you say this about Bill, which is exactly what they did, then that we won't charge you with this crime. It's exactly what they did.
What about the other
ones? What I can
ones?
tell you is this. We collected over $3 million for our customers, all right, with WAB.
Right.
At the time I was very sick. The government is shutting my bank accounts down. They're not charging me, not telling me to shut down, okay? And after WAB, we started another company that was in Miami that perfected their situation. We were able to recover money, and we were able to use the attorneys to get them out of their timeshare, which is what they wanted. All right, the first company, in the beginning, the first 2 years, we just did straight collections.
Sure.
And then we did the rental advertising, because we found that the customers were getting defrauded again, and there was a certain amount of money that we just couldn't get back.
Right.
All right, for them. And no one wants to see these people being defrauded over and over again.
Okay.
You just don't.
Right.
So it breaks your heart to see that happen. So that's what we did. And then when I went on the zeal for advertising and then matching them up actually, okay, with 78 people, 78 customers, and not one of them were able to get a reservation. And that had to do with the resort, not me.
I got you.
All right. We did our job. We matched them up. We're not real estate agents. We matched up someone who wanted to go on vacation with someone who had a vacation to go on.
Right.
All right. Or someone who had to give is what I'm saying. So that was it. It's really just that cut and dry. And, you know, the customers were in the plus, and you're talking about how many victims were there in the indictment?
I think there's 9, right? That's listed in the indictment.
Out of 4,200 customers?
I mean, that's not a bad deal, but you still got 9. Now, usually with federal indictments, those are some of the cream of the crop. Those are the easiest ones to prove. And I'm not saying anything about that, but
after 4.5 years of investigating, they came up with 9 people.
I got you. So
several thousand. I didn't know we had to be perfect.
No, I got you.
Companies,
and to be honest with you, when I was
beings working for us, we make mistakes. I remember seeing there was one that slipped through the cracks that said we made a couple of calls, the collector made a couple of calls to try and help the customer, and he didn't answer, left a couple of messages, and then they didn't get a call again. It was a mistake. Right. It slipped through the cracks.
No, I remember my indictment. I had, William, I probably had a few thousand victims, and they charged me with 79 of them, and I pled guilty to 39 of them. That's just one of those things. The Walmart lady. What about the other 2? What did I do?
Yeah,
I invented cybercrime.
Didn't you actually commit a crime?
Yeah, I invented cybercrime.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't commit a crime.
Okay.
Right?
I did. I was guilty as hell.
Okay. Well,
I'm not saying you did. What about these other 2 cats that pled guilty? Why are they pleading guilty to you committing crime at your company?
Again, they got themselves in trouble.
Outside of your company.
Right. Alex relapsed and was arrested for something. And if you say this about Bill,
right,
we'll let you go.
Have they been sentenced yet? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
I don't think they have. I tried to find them in the BOP inmate locator and couldn't locate them. So I look for them today.
But, you know, the government says these things and they're not true. None of that stuff is true. And I don't know why they had to do that. It's very simple. You call people up and you have a whole list of people that have been defrauded. You get companies in like Prime Resorts and 5-Star Rental. And they're just all these companies that are ripping off the senior citizens by saying that they have a buyer for their timeshare or a check for their timeshare when they don't.
Right. And you get lead sheets that do that, right?
And there's millions on
there. But you have lead sheets that supply that information.
That's right.
And sometimes those lead sheets show who defrauded the victims and the amounts and stuff like that. So you know exactly what you're talking about when you call the person.
Right. Of course. And that's, you pay for them. They come from lead brokers.
Okay.
You pay for that company data.
Right.
All right. And you find that they didn't just pay that company, they paid all kinds of companies. And what would we do is we would order 7 years worth of credit card statements and find out all the fraud on their credit card. And there are companies on there, they have no clue. They have no recollection.
Sure.
I don't think they authorized the charge ever. I really don't.
So they initiated a chargeback. And like I said, I've got some experience in chargeback games.
It's not a chargeback.
It is a chargeback.
So, but anyway,
if you're claiming no, it's chargeback based on fraud is what that is. There's a code for that.
Oh, well, I thought it was just fraud.
No, there's a code for that. So you're doing a chargeback at that point. You're saying, hey, there's fraud committed on this. At that point in time, they give a temporary credit. Then an investigation ensues. If the investigation shows there was no fraud whatsoever, then that temporary credit is taken back. But in the interim, what the indictment indicates,
Not when you file a fraud complaint. You win or lose.
No, that's not true. That is absolutely not true. When I file a fraud complaint, they give me a temporary credit. They absolutely give me a temporary credit on my account. And then an investigation ensues.
Only if it's within the dispute period.
Then an investigation ensues.
Outside the dispute period, you don't get a temporary chargeback. They do their investigation, and once they give you the money back, it's permanent.
So you're saying that these people didn't get any temporary credits and get them taken back, even though the indictment says that?
That there's no temporary credits.
Okay. All right, the indictment's wrong.
A temporary credit is when you file a dispute. Let's say it's based on fraud, like you said. For whatever reason, you file a dispute with the credit card company, and they say they give you an initial credit, and then they come back and find that it's a valid charge.
Right.
And they put it back on the card. That's not what we were doing.
You weren't doing that.
No, we filed fraud complaints outside the dispute period.
Right.
You don't get a temporary credit. You wait for the investigation to be done. And then if you get a credit, it's permanent.
So the indictment is completely wrong on what it says.
On that, yes.
I mean, that's crazy that they would write an indictment like that. I mean, it is. That's insane, considering that the federal conviction rate is over 90%. Did you know that?
High.
It's high. 89.5% of people plead out.
Not me.
So you're taking it to court.
That's right. I'm going to try.
Have you received a plea deal?
No.
William, I like you.
No. We didn't do anything wrong.
William, I like you.
It sounds like you think I did. It sounds like you think you have insider information.
I'm going to give you some good advice. All right. You're looking at some prison time, dude.
Okay.
All right. You're going to be presented with a plea deal because they always do. They always do. You've had 3 people out of your conspiracy that have pled guilty. Those 3 people are going to testify against you. It takes 2 individuals to testify against you to prove a conspiracy. All right. I'm basing that on my prison time.
Okay.
So you're going to be found guilty of conspiracy.
Okay. I don't think so.
Okay. I'm just telling you from experience. All right.
Best advice I can give you. The government's not telling the truth.
Best advice I can give you.
That's not true, what they're saying.
Well,
and now if they found someone that committed a crime and they charged them and said, if you say this about Bill, and they're like, okay, we'll say this about Bill.
Sure.
That doesn't make it a crime. You're talking about
I got you.
4,200 customers, and how many complaints? 9?
Well, if those 9,
I mean, how do you have that? How
if
many do you have
if those 9 victims, if those 9 victims,
25,000 customers and 9 complaints, when does it end?
William, if those 9 victims get on the stand and tell the judge, and if you want a jury, if they tell a jury that you have defrauded them, that's 9 victims. All right. That's 9. I don't give a damn if you've got 25,000 happy ass customers. You've got 9 victims on a stand that's saying this man defrauded me. Do you know what that equals? That equals a guilty verdict. That's what that equals.
Well, I guess you're trying a case with me right now, and I'm not.
I'm just going through the indictment, man.
Okay, well.
Because, what got me was when we talked on the phone, you said the judge ordered you to shut your businesses down.
My other businesses, I wasn't charged with them.
But then, and that got me thinking, I was like, man, I got to look this guy up. I got to do my research. And then it appears that you set up a new business after the judge told you to shut down the old business, and the new business was doing the same thing that the old business was doing.
That's not true.
That's what it says.
That's not true.
So that never happened.
We weren't shut down. We were never shut down. I wasn't charged until April of this year.
Right. In August, you come back into court because you're running another business.
I had that business for 3 years. We owned 5 travel agencies. Mm-hmm. We owned an automotive repair franchise. We owned other collection agencies. We owned a sober house. We owned
right.
So they all were shut down because
And you
of
didn't
this
start one back up after the judge told you not to.
That's correct.
So why the hell are you back in there in August trying to answer to the judge for starting another business back up?
That's not true.
Never happened.
That's right. I'm sitting here now, right?
Yeah, I don't know what the disposition of it. I couldn't find the disposition of that. I mean, I found where the Better Business Bureau tried to contact you didn't respond. I found that kind of stuff. Found the indictment. Found the guilty pleas. All that. But I did not find the disposition of I think it was August 23rd of this year when you were having an answer to that.
Look, it sounds, I'm telling you this, okay?
Uh-huh.
There were no victims. We helped
No
people
victims.
get money back from fraudsters. We weren't telling them to lie on the phone.
Okay.
We weren't doing anything like that.
Okay.
People got money back. We collected millions of dollars for the customers. The credit cards weren't harmed. It came from the fraudster itself, the merchant account. So that's why the credit card companies aren't coming after me.
Okay.
The people that we got out of their timeshares, which is probably about 1,000 timeshare contracts, were senior citizens. The resorts didn't come after us because we never lied to anybody.
Okay.
It's this one case that has to do with my brother-in-law,
Right.
okay, trying to get me out of the house so he could get my father's inheritance.
Did they get your father's inheritance?
Yeah, they did.
They
They
did.
disinherited me, added a will, and they got his inheritance, and they got me jammed up in all these different
Yeah.
courts.
And you were charged with theft of some of your father's money, right?
Right. They had me falsely charged with that. That's right.
Have those charges been dropped?
No, it's been
No.
sitting around for 3 years.
Okay.
So, no, not dropped. The whole
Okay.
thing was them going to their friends in government and creating this false case against me, and, companies A-rated with the BBB, helping
Right.
seniors get money back, doing the advertising for their time sharing. And then they decided to destroy the companies is what they did, and without charging me. Okay, that's what
Right.
they did. They destroyed the company. We decided to start over in Miami, and we had a law firm that was helping us do the timeshare cancellations, and we were doing the recovery. We had 11 full-time collectors working and helping all the clients get money back from the fraudsters. We were not committing fraud.
Okay.
Okay, so you can read the indictment, and it sounds bad.
It does.
It's not the truth.
Okay.
Okay, I'm telling you the truth.
No,
and
I
I'll be
understand,
able to-
man. I appreciate
I'll be able
that.
to prove the truth.
No, I appreciate that, and I really hope the best for you. It's just, it just
Can
sounded
you let
odd
me
to
use
me.
the bathroom one more time?
Well, actually, let's go ahead and close things out if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay.
All right, but
All right.
William,
Well-
I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking through this with me. I
I'm disappointed
appreciate
that you
it.
didn't get to hear, about, what they did is they
Right.
intentionally destroyed my company so I couldn't operate and keep some of the promises
Right.
that we were making. They did that to us.
I understand.
They
I
could have
understand
just
that.
said, shut down, we disagree, or whatever the case is. I don't know what it was, but we collected millions of dollars. Our customers were in the plus. Now, there may have been some, okay, like you said, 9, that maybe didn't get what was promised, or maybe they're mistaken, okay, because we are dealing with senior citizens.
Sure.
And
And
sometimes they'll say, no, we got nothing back. And here we have proof, because we kept meticulous records that they did get the money back. Okay. We're like, oh, look at this. This one. So this would happen because you're dealing with senior citizens.
Right.
Can't get mad at them for that. They didn't
Right.
do anything wrong.
No, and
They
it would
just
be
got
wrong. It
older.
would, and I grant you, it would be wrong to manipulate senior citizens or to use them or to victimize them. Absolutely
Of
would.
course.
Right.
Of course it would. And that's the thing. Okay. We were helping senior citizens that were defrauded. That's
Right.
what we did.
And you were not
We
defrauding
did-
them more. I got
Never. And we
Okay.
did they're all in the plus.
you. Right.
I mean, someone pays $4,000 because we got them back 10 grand.
Right. Except for those 9.
I'm not sure about the 9. I can go through and look at them, but I'm not sure about the 9. I think when we looked it over, That a lot of them did receive collections, but they said that they didn't recall getting collections.
Okay.
But I'll have to go through that. But 9 out of what, 4,000? That's
Well, nine that's mentioned in the indictment. Let's be honest here. Could be more than that. We don't know. Could be less. Well, not less.
Well, I don't know
It's at
about
least
that.
9. Well, look, Mr. O'Hanlon, I appreciate you coming on the show.
All
Truly.
right.
All right. Take care, sir.
Well, thank you. See you
Yes,
later.
sir. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Bye now.
All right, so that was Bill William O'Hanlon. Here's the thing. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, criminals do their own research, and I wish to hell before they contacted me, because he contacted me. He didn't do his own research. I don't put up with bullshit. I don't. I am not the guy that's going to get in here and let some son of a bitch just rattle on about how he did not commit crime. Do I believe he's guilty? Yes. Shit, yes. I believe he's guilty. If that wasn't evident, well, I'm sure someone's not been paying attention. My name is Brett Johnson. There's a reason I close out this show by saying, just at the end of the day, just do the right damn thing. You're victimizing senior citizens. Something wrong with that. Not only are you victimizing senior citizens, you're victimizing senior citizens who have been victimized before. We're going to close things out. I'm going to have a drink of bourbon to calm down. My name is Brett Johnson. This is Criminal Thoughts. How do we close it out? Same way every time, and this should ring home truly today. Stay safe, stay secure, and stay vigilant, because there are people out there in this world like Bill O'Hanlon. More importantly, understand this is Criminal Thoughts. At the end of the day, just do the right damn thing. My name is Brett Johnson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time.